My mother-in-law is giving me the hardest time because I can't have a baby and she won't let me live it down. Guys, my life is being ruined because of this woman, but here's the kicker. It's not me that can't have a baby, and I'll tell you who it is. Have you ever felt that feeling of fullness in the middle of space that's not yours? I've been able to have it in my husband's family, but not 100% due to a certain factor that I like to call Johanna, my mother-in-law. Ever since Nick and I have been together, everything's been constant. Well, biting criticism as if she's designed to make my life a living hell. Yeah, and it's always for every little thing. For example, one time, Nick and I were going on a romantic date. All was well. We had not been out together for a while, and it was about time we indulged in a little luxury. However, first we had to stop by her house to drop off some errands. To this day, I still insist that it was a bad idea because she told us that we looked great and everything, but let's just say that my nails were not the prettiest that day. The paint. It had come off just a little bit from washing dishes, as is normal for anyone in my position, and that's when all hell broke loose. And you're going like that? Couldn't you make your nails better? It's not ladylike, you know. And it escalated to the point where she started telling Nick just to reconsider his marriage vows since, quote, someone as scruffy as that could not possibly be a mother material. It got to a point where I ended up crying. I'm very sensitive to that kind of situation about my physique, and Nick would almost cancel the reservation just to comfort me at home, which did not make me feel any better. How do we go from having nails, fingers destroyed for, I don't know, more than justifiable reason to telling our son to reconsider the woman he married? As I told you before, this only happens with her, with Johanna, because the rest of the family are the most wonderful people I've ever met. And to be honest, this has been the case for as long as I've known them. His cousins and uncles defend me too much from her mother, and I think once one of the cousins told me that I've fallen in love with the wrong person, or at least the one who, cohabitation was going to be more difficult. The uncles tell my mother-in-law that I'm not a child to be babied and scolded every hour. Not even my mother has been like that with me. I've learned that Johanna's behavior is the result of being raised on the point of scolding and insult since she was little, and I know that this authority and superiority complex only makes her feel better. I can even understand her, but I don't share the same line of nagging. It was a childhood where everything had to be perfect and meticulous for a young lady, but she can't pretend to impose that kind of living conditions on another person, let alone someone who does not belong to her blood. But here's the thing. There's another reason why she's been so absolutely unbearable, and it's more of a delicate matter. You see, it turns out that when Nick and I got together, we had agreed from the beginning to start a family. Pretty stereotypical stuff. A couple kids, a dog, a cat, and a modest house in the suburbs. You know, the American dream. But it's been extremely complicated because I have not been able to give birth. I have not even been able to get pregnant, and it's been 5 years since we got married, and since day one, we've been trying, but nothing happens. And who better than my mother-in-law to emphasize that a woman must provide children for the family? And if she can't even do that, can she call herself a woman? Years ago, I was about to go to a psychologist because of all the stress that this was causing me. Well, my friends told me that the problem was very obvious and not to waste all the money on what was right under my nose. They even said, and I quote, "And you haven't tried talking to her?" Just to laugh in their faces. Talk to her? The same person who was dedicated to ruining a vacation by not wanting to go out just because she said she did not want to be around me? Well, yeah, I'll give you some context on that one. I was assaulted by Rain a week before, and she thought and swore that I was going to get sick from it, infecting the others on the trip, and spoiler alert, Neither that scenario happened, nor did she end up going with us, causing bad vibes on the trip and worried the heck out of Nick's part. And that's another issue in the equation. Nick gets pretty carried away with the things that his mother says, and of course he doesn't fully listen to her. But if she says something, he tries to find a way for both parties to just be at peace, even though he knows that his mother is the one who's in the wrong. I'm told that this has always been the case and that his mother has been a peeler for him since his father abandoned him when he was just a little boy. He did not have that male figure in his life, and I had to make do with Momzilla. In fact, I've even come to think that he's with me just because I'm such a radically different figure than his mother in almost every single way. Like, I don't know, a son trying to reveal himself in a roundabout way to his authority figure. Still, he always puts her first in everything, and yeah, it's understandable. I mean, she is his mother, but he swore eternal love to me. And in theory, he should care about making my life something far from a tragedy, you know? Which is what I constantly ask of him, and yes, we've been going on for 5 years now with these endless discussions about talking to his mother about my life, but as you'll see, he doesn't have the best persuasive power. If I can give you some advice, folks, don't get married before you meet your in-laws. You won't know what kind of jewels await you. Besides, it's well known that behaviors are adopted and repeated, and if that's the case, well, I've already told Nick that I'm not willing to take this abusive, destructive comments from him. Soon I may reconsider going back to the gynecologist just to have my hormones checked. There's probably possibilities for having a baby. After all, I just have to be on constant treatment. And it's not that I'm doing this to please my mother-in-law. Oh no. It's the last thing I want, actually. I'm doing it simply for the fact that I've wanted to start a family with my husband for years now. And as soon as I have my son or daughter, I'm going to try to get them away from their grandmother, as I don't want her to raise them in a twisted way. I mean, can you imagine that my baby has, God forbid, some kind of defect, and she starts criticizing him to her, or to no end? It's something I would not wish on anyone, let alone my baby. It's also kind of a small revenge against my mother-in-law. Yeah, it'll sound selfish, but it's something I've already discussed with Nick. He's not entirely on board with it, though, but he understands the reasons for doing it, and imagine that even he finds this situation quite unpleasant. But if he's going to do anything about it, well, I'm still waiting. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Okay, so today's story is a mother-in-law drama, and it seems like this mother-in-law simply will not let OP breathe. I'm just going to read you the first sentence of update number 1, and it's, I hate my mother-in-law. Guys, I have multiple updates for y'all today. I hope you're having a fantastic day. If you want to support the channel just a little bit, all you gotta do is subscribe to the channel by clicking the button underneath this video. It's completely free, and it does help out a lot. Alright, let's go ahead and jump into the first update titled, I hate my mother-in-law. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. So much that I can't find the words to describe it. I know it's a trite and repetitive joke, but my mother-in-law's the worst in the whole world. Remember I told you I was going to the gynecologist for a few checkups, just to find out how my hormone issue was, but they told me that unfortunately everything was still the same, and that they were not sure if I would be able to give birth at some point in my life. They said I had a fairly low hormone load, as if it were some sort of very strong birth control, but I told them that I'd stop using any birth control for years. Well, I had a bitter taste in my mouth as I left the office, knowing what was going to happen when I got home. I asked Nick not to talk to his mother about it, but he made another equally reckless mistake. He told his cousins. They told their mothers, and they told my mother-in-law, and that's when the lady came to our house in an absolute fit of rage, almost for no apparent reason. Do you know what she said to us when she arrived? And I quote you here. So, what are you going to do now? Oh, about what? Well, when I asked her that, she ignored me and she went right to Nick, as if I were painting on the wall, saying that I was the black sheep of the family and a mistake in every sense of the word. Of course, we were shocked at all the things she started yelling, as it was recklessness after recklessness. And we told her it was not my fault that did not happen, and she pulled the quote, "This wouldn't have happened if you stayed with Cindy." Cindy. Cindy was Nick's first girlfriend, the daughter of a friend of his mother, and she was a girl, not that pretty, really, but she was pretty close to the ideals his mother wanted in a woman for her son. Which is why Nick almost did not like her, and when he dumped her, his mother's heart turned over enough to tell him to this day that this should be the woman of his dreams, not the lady who can't even give birth. So, with that, we started to yell at each other. We yelled at each other very loudly and angry, and it just kept going. I was finally telling her the truth, though, and she turned a blind eye. She just kept repeating the same little speech over and over again, while Nick was the one who looked like the real paint on the wall. I kept telling him to do something about his mother, but he joined us in the sea of tears too. So it was to no avail. It got to a point where the neighbors came out to see what the heck was going on, and we were so embarrassed to tell them it was just a family conflict. Only Nick and I said it, as Johanna was in the living room still flaming with upset. And to top it off, she wanted to stay with us that night, claiming it was too late to go home, and I didn't mind saying I didn't care, and everything escalated again, until Nick offered to drive her back on his own. He told me that they talked a bit on the way, but no common ground was reached. Actually, as a result of all this that's been going on, I have a lot of desire to have a child since I'm afraid of becoming like that woman. Of course, it's very easy to say no, that I will be better and a better mother, but understand me, that lady has wreaked havoc in my mind, and I don't want to make the same mistakes. So, she does not provoke me to do anything. I just stay at home and watch TV all day long. Update number 2, titled, Johanna has reached absurd levels. I can't. I just can't. It's been a month since our cold-blooded encounter, and not a day has gone by since that woman stopped interfering with our relationship. First, a week later, she started spreading rumors to all our strangers, saying that she had seen me with another man downtown, and making up lies after lies that I wanted to get myself pregnant by another guy. Well, after that, she went so far as to contact my own family, saying that I was mistreating her little boy. That's when Nick decided to give her a hard time and tell her to stop before something bad happened. But as more people joined her crusade, I believe things deteriorated. Remember a girl I told you about in the last update? Well, Cindy. Yeah, that girl, Johanna, tried to set up with Nick years ago. Well, she's back, and she's worse than ever. I don't know how, but Johanna managed to get Cindy back in town to set up a date with Nick. Let me explain. Johanna told Nick to meet her for dinner since she wanted to talk about everything that was going on between us. And Nick, like the good, innocent son that he was, told her it would be no problem. So he went. Only to be surprised later with Cindy, who according to Nick is slightly prettier, which I don't care about those words he said, who was waiting for him at his mother's house. That's right, it was just them, with no signs of Johanna, who had arranged for them to go on this romantic date. In other words, she made her married son go out with someone else, and I don't know, is it possible for a mother to be this psychotic? I don't know if that's the right term, I'm sorry, I just know this is over the line. Of course, Nick tried to wiggle out of the situation, but Cindy resisted. It wasn't until he told her he was married that she simply gave up. She shielded herself by saying that Johanna had never mentioned that Nick was married. She had only told her that she wanted a romantic reunion between the two of them, and that was the main motivation for doing so. Cindy said that if she had known before, she would not have accepted it, and that's the honest truth, which was quite uncomfortable for the two of them. I did not need any more reason to tell Nick that I was so afraid of this, and that was to give him an ultimatum to the situation. It was either his mother or me. Yeah, it seems absurd to make me pit someone against their own mother, but given the situation, I felt obliged to tell him about whether he prefers that lady whom I can tell will be a rock in our shoes forever, or the woman who supports him in every day and is dedicated to helping him as much as possible. I'll be telling him tomorrow exactly how I feel, since today he stayed at some friend's house. That's the last straw. As I feel somewhat lonely in several ways right now, I don't want to envision a divorce in the future. But if he doesn't put his mind to it, I have to remember that above all, well, the people, I come first. Update number 3. Hey guys, I'm highly impressed about everything that's happened. I just talked to Nick about the situation and he was incredibly responsive. Yeah. It's not that I was doubting him at all, it's just that I did not think someone could be this understanding under the guise of, quote, leaving his mother. He won't abandon her, obviously, but he'll avoid maintaining constant contact with her unless it's an absolute emergency. Moreover, he said that he was going to talk to her right now on the phone, and that in the supposed scenario that she pretends to be in an emergency to see him, and that is a sham or deception. He'll go further, and that's when he'll avoid communication with her altogether. I'm on my laptop right now, just typing this away, as I considered it impolite to listen to their conversation. But I'll be honest with you, I'm quite relieved to know that I can count on him from now on. Rumors have been spreading absurdly, though, strangers even. Nick has been told at work that I'm cheating on him by people who have never seen me before in my life, and all because my mother doesn't like me. Fortunately, I've had supportive people come out, friends and family more than anything else, saying that I can't do that kind of thing. Many of those people were the only ones who gave me, well, the issue of the ultimatum, and I admit I would not have been strong enough to do it on my own. And now I just have to wait for Nick's reaction after his... Okay, he just ended the call. He looks a little sad, but sighs reassuringly, and he told me that I don't have to worry anymore, and that if his mother caused problems just one more time, I could tell him about it and he would see how to solve everything. To be honest, I'm a little afraid of his serious and indifferent attitude about all this now. I've never seen him like that before, and I hope he'll get over it eventually. Tomorrow, I will get up early to bring him breakfast in bed. It's already a rest day, and I want to take some stress off of him. I don't want him to regret that decision, so I'll try my best to be a good wife and a good friend, and I don't know if it sounds kind of pathetic, but it's a way I see to make amends for all that hurt. Although, in my defense, I was not the one who started this war. Update number 4. Well, things have been getting pretty well lately. I don't know if this is going to be my last update, but I can assure you that if so, it's going to have a happy ending. It's been at least a month since the ultimatum was given, and we have not heard from Johanna. I know it sounds harsh to put it this way, but I can assure you that I have not had this much peace in years. Financially, we're doing well, and our friends are inviting us to various parties. Many of them have parties in just the last quarter of the year, and even though the holidays are approaching us, we have decided that we might as well spend them with my family for a change. We tend to be with Nick's family every year, and changing the formula would only make Johanna's detachment from our family equation even more bearable. And the best part is that it's all well justified. Who's going to complain that we want to spend this year with the other half of the family? Well, apart from Johanna. Of course, there's still a small inconvenience, and that is our pregnancy attempts. We've tried all sorts of things, but we have not been able to make any progress. That's made me very sad as of lately, and even though Nick doesn't care, I feel that deep down he's a little worried too. We're only in our 30s, and there's still a long way to go before we can start a family. Well, but we've been at it for 5 years, and that's getting to be a long time, and before we know it, it'll be another 5 years, and after that, the complications of having babies will start. So, I'd like to hurry up a little bit. If in a couple of years it does not work out, we'll look at the possibility of adoption. So, it's not the end of the world, after all. The point is to give the child the chance to a happy life, right? In that sense, I'm more than motivated to do that, regardless of the outcome. I will love the child, with my life being the best mother in the world. Updates number 5. Well, I never thought I would receive such a betrayal, much less from a person that is so important to me. Tell me, how would you feel if you could have saved yourself so much conflict by not meeting this said person? In my case, unfortunately, I'm talking about Nick. And I know you might be asking yourselves a lot of questions because all this is a clash with the last update I wrote. As it turns out, he was lying to me this whole time. Okay, yeah. It sounds very dark, I know, but let me explain. Apparently, for a long time, years even, he's been secretly sterile due to a secret operation he had years ago. Something not even Johanna knows, and as far as I know, if I'm honest, I had my own suspicions all this time. Even thinking that it was because of some accident he had in childhood. I read once that many men are prone to infertility due to this kind of situation that even they aren't aware of. I discovered this because I started going to a new doctor, on the recommendation of a friend, who said I should just go ahead and do it on my own. And his diagnosis was, well, different. He said that there was not something wrong with me, but in any case, I should bring my husband with me. So I called Nick over, but he was dubious about going there. He made a million excuses, but in the end, I insisted and he went. Made the usual checks and went home. He was beyond scared during the whole process, and I did not know why. That's when I started having my suspicions. The results came the day after, and that's when he broke down. I found Nick on the verge of tears with very red eyes, and it was then that he told the truth. And it was worse than I have imagined. It turns out that he had a vasectomy years ago when he was leaving college, and starting as an inside joke to himself, but turning more serious in time. It was said that he did not plan to have children in the long run. With, well, that method, he could at least move forward in time to convince me to not even consider adoption as an alternative. Well, I talked to him and said that those operations can be reversed, but he didn't want to do it. And that's why he used the irreversible method, and I was crushed. Not even his mother knew about it, and if he would have told me that fact, maybe we could have saved a lot of years of trouble with my mother-in-law. Summarizing all my problems with Johanna, the constant whisper of, "You're not woman enough," were all my husband's fault, just because he could not open up with me and the woman he said he loved the most. I'm not an ogre. I would have understood his position, but he just let the lie go all the way to this point, and we fought. And no, actually, we didn't really fight. It was just me yelling at him for his betrayal, and he was silent because it was all true. That night, I left the house and went straight to my mom's and told her it was just an impromptu visit and did not want to talk to anyone for the rest of the night. The next day, I had my phone full of calls and messages from Nick, but I had left it on vibrate, so I did not pay attention to them. My mother, who could tell I was a little uncomfortable from the day before, asked me if something was wrong. And that's when I told her everything. She said that he was a liar, an imposter, and overall a bad husband. He preferred to make his wife and mother enemies before telling the truth, and she said it was a very cowardly thing to do. Of course, I immediately called Nick, and that's when the long, horrible conversations began. He told me that he even talked with his doctors that we used to go to keep his secret, and that's why he was so nervous during the last exam at the new doctor. He even considered asking for a sample from one of his coworkers to show some sperm activity. We went from having a normal, calm, loving life to nothing but arguments, and That's when I realized that in reality, the life we had before was nothing more than a simple lie. So much could have happened, but he decided to just straight up cancel, affecting my mental state while keeping the truth aside. I emphasize all this because in one of the conversations, he said something that made me detach from any idea of affection. He told me that there was another reason for having done what he did, and that was that if he had a baby, his mother was going to forget about him. At first, I didn't understand, so I asked for an explanation, but it seemed as if he regretted saying that, and I insisted. And he told me that he liked his mother's love and that giving her a grandchild would make her shift her heart to someone else besides him. It was then that I sat up and looked at the wall as if for the first time he was talking. I did not quite understand what was going on. The meaning of his words were a bit confusing, and I just left and came to right here. I have a lot to meditate on. I'll write then. I have some peace of mind. I promise I'll update. Update number 6. This is the final update. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've been here. How are you? I hope all's well. After many mishaps, I can say that I'm fine. As well as I can be in this position. My story continued in a somewhat bizarre way when it concluded in the final update. Obviously, I've parted ways with Nick. I could not be with someone like that no matter how much forgiveness he offered me. I just couldn't. There was a moment when I considered it, but I had to be strong in what ended up being the hardest decision of my entire life. And it was a double decision since I also decided to sue him. It was with the help of one of my cousins, which was a very good lawyer, that I dared to do it. Everyone told me, and I quote, "The guy put you through so much unnecessary stress and he should not get away with murder." That is manipulation and even a form of, sexual abuse. And although it's hard for me to accept it, it's very much true. It was one of the fastest trials I've ever been to. Not that I've been to many. As expected, everything went into my favor. Of course, I cried a lot, and so did Nick, who looked very sorry for everything that happened. And, we were also joined by Johanna, who remained silent in front of me during all the meetings. I want to believe that even though she thought so badly of me, deep down she knows that what her son did is absolutely unforgivable, as it was great abuse by a husband and a man. Right now, I'm staying in a small apartment in the center of the city, and I managed to get back on my feet after everything that's happened, and with the money I've earned, I plan to invest in a friend's restaurant, which I see a lot of potential in. Nick went back to live with his mother, and as far as I know, Johanna never talked to me either, so that's kind of winning, I think. And everyone has found out about the situation, making their lives an absolute living hell, and just gossiping about the abusive family down the street. As for me, I'll be called a fool or deluded, but I'm hoping to fall in love again. In the distant future with someone who can and will share his future with me to the fullest. I feel these last few years have been a little lost, but I'll always be looking forward to a better tomorrow, and of course I should ask first for previous operations in case I've done them. I don't want to force anyone to go with the life I want, but I would not like them to lie to me, not again, of course. So this whole time, Johanna was giving OP the cold shoulder, and it wasn't even OP who could not have the baby, it was her own son, who went and did a medical surgery that prevented it. Guys, this story was wild. I want to hear from you what exactly you thought about it, how you would have gone about handling it, if you would have handled it differently. Drop your comments down below. My name's Mr. Reddito. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's stories. I'll see you tomorrow, and remember, it's cool to be kind.